About 2 minutes.
Sounds good.
Karen, how are you?
I am doing well. It's so great to see everyone. Hey, Jeremy, I got Zoom.
Hey, Karen, and that's good to see.
Yeah, you can finally got my Zoom. I got it on my
Amazing.
own computer.
I was going to say it's amazing what you can do when you're outside of the like very like important firewalls of B of A, huh?
Yes. So a personal computer is the trick, and I did finally get one.
Cool.
You don't need one. You just don't need one anymore. I was going to be honest. With the bank computer, I'm on it all day. So, anyways, I got one.
Good to hear.
So we have 32 folks. So we'll get started in 1 minute.
Sounds good to me.
Jeremy, I heard that your president was Lynette was president of the year. And
She was even on CNN yesterday.
Wow. Did she mention the work you're doing?
I don't know. I did not notice that she said anything about me, but the spotlight's supposed to be on her right now, so that's good.
Oh, great. We got Joe. Joe's calling in. Joe, you're with Vince Fong, right?
Yes, that is correct. I am filling in for Lauren. She is out on maternity leave, so I put my information up there on the chat for everyone. Please feel free to reach out.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
And Richard, Amy Phelan's here, but I'm just calling in.
Oh, Amy with Bitwise. Great.
Yep.
Hey, Amy.
Hey there.
Great.
Order slip has been fantastic, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Absolutely awesome, yes.
Great. Well, I know.
Oh, good. Yeah, and who was that was talking? Oh, I'm sorry. That was you, Jeremy, right?
Yes, Amy, that was me, Jeremy Woods. Thank you for that referral. It was awesome.
Okay. Absolutely.
Well, why don't we get started? I know, Jeremy, you're going to talk later about Aerospace Valley Futures. Many of you may know Jeremy, the work he's doing with CSUV, but the partnerships and launching an East Kern initiative. So I'll get started. We probably won't be able to do introductions the way we want, but thank you again. We have 35 folks on the line, and many of you may remember the last time we convened was the day after the economic summit in Mojave, and I guess a lot has happened since then, but we're really excited to have you all around the table today. And we have a pretty good agenda. In terms of ground rules, I'll try to keep myself to this to each community organization. If we can, keep 5 minutes or less, that would be wonderful. I don't know if we have a buzzer, Jeremy. But
I can act as a virtual buzzer. I can act as a sort of human buzzer if you like.
Oh, that's okay. I will work. I'll have the virtual gavel. So, well, I was just starting off in terms of current EDC and, kind of a perspective looking regional as well as state. I know saw the governor's budget came out today. 22% decline in anticipated revenue. I think it's a $203 billion budget, estimating a $54 billion shortfall for the state versus, I think it was a $6 billion last year. And, I know that we'll have the supervisors on later to talk about the terms of the county and projections especially with even before this with the low oil prices. Looking at some of the reports about how resilient is our economy relative to others, the LABC released last month. They looked at various counties throughout Southern California, and they estimate that Kern County's unemployment rate is going to be 31% in May. And if you look at versus just in terms of job loss, we're actually, I guess it's positive news, but we're actually do better than counties surrounding us. The San Luis Obispo is at 29% in terms of employment-based loss. And, they're a tourism economy. And what we're seeing is in terms of the analysis, tourism-based economies are really being hit hard, but also energy-based economies. And so that's one of our big legs of the stool. So they project a total percentage loss, 23.8% for our county. Again, this is just May, so there have not been, we have not seen the state numbers, which won't come out till mid-June. The industries that they're looking at in terms of exposure are retail, in terms of biggest job loss for Kern County, sales, transportation, travel, and mining. So I know we'll have Nathan Hope on to talk about what's happening at Rio, but most of the mining they're looking at is related to, I believe, petroleum and oil extraction and lesser demand for those products. The Chamorro Analytics had a report, which we also pushed out, where we were one of the least vulnerable out of 350 metros to the COVID crisis. Granted, this was fourth quarter 19 report. This is before oil prices took a dive, as well as the effects of Sigma on our agriculture industry. But again, just based on the elements, now number one most exposed was Honolulu. You look at Orlando, Las Vegas. So these are things that we have to bear in mind. Brookings had a recent report came out last week about we were kind of in the middle, Kern County, in terms of, as they said, Sunbelt and energy centers are really being impacted. Looking forward, obviously, how do we respond, right? It's all about the response, the recovery, the rebound. One of the things that in 2009, our current EDC was heavily involved with was BREs, business retention expansion visits. Layoff aversion is another word. We prefer enhancement or retention expansion, but that's going to be a real priority, making sure that our local businesses are able to move forward. What are the tools out there? The workforce development opportunities. How do these communities, how do we all rise to the challenge? Because 80 to 90% of jobs are created from local companies. So we have to make sure that we provide, one of the terms is future-proofing, right? How are we going to provide these companies the skills, future-proofing, to succeed? You heard about what KITE as current initiative for town entrepreneurship. We want to make sure that the startup activity is robust. And that's important too, because 90% of new jobs are from net new jobs are from companies less than a year old. So I think that's critical. The site selection trends, the discussion is how will the pipeline change? I know tonight there's 2 solar projects, East Kern, that are going to Planning Commission. You might have seen in Bakersfield, there's a biofuel. So those are nice, but how do we get additional industries, growth within additional industries, especially in East Kern? There's a lot of talk about onshoring, right, from China back to U.S., but there's also nearshoring. And nearshoring, I believe, is out of the LA basin. The density is actually not, the urbanized areas we're already pushing out industrial. But this density, you're seeing kind of the talk about talent attraction and retention. The large urban areas are concerned that there's going to be an exodus out of these very dense regions. And we know LA is July, I think, end of July is when they have the open date. So that is something we need to look again, have a robust working to especially the LA basin as a solution for that West Coast operation or operations. There's talk about de-risking the supply chain. So what does that mean? It means there'll be more regional centers for distribution versus one West Coast location. Maybe there'll be several to service that market. And again, looking at Kern County as being a good possible location for that. Broadband's another, right? I mean, we know the office market's going to be significantly altered. We're seeing in telemedicine how maybe it was 10 to 15% of healthcare's operations going to 70, 80% now. But I don't think it will go back to 15 or 20%. So what are the ramifications with broadband? There's a 395 initiative that building that corridor. But also what will be the, much like brick and mortar, internet issues with brick and mortar, downsizing retail, what will be that impact on the office side? When we see the industries that actually will benefit, I don't want to say benefit from a crisis, but the opportunities, and it falls into advanced manufacturing, biotech or medical manufacturing, and logistics, as well as mechanical engineering. So a lot of these are things that will play well with East Kern. And so again, how do we future-proof, right? How do we come out of this stronger? Because I think in general, we're seen as hopefully kind of that V curve versus the U curve, that many areas are workforce, we have really tight market. And we'll look at East Kern. How are the cities? We see the unemployment numbers coming up, but East Kern had a pretty tight, low unemployment, single digit in most areas. So how will those numbers reflect the crisis? We are involved with CalEd and the state group. I just had a meeting today and IEDC on the restoring the economy. What are the best practices out? I know Tehachapi just got an award for collaboration, and so these are things that we need to look at. What are best practices in our backyard that we can succeed? So I think I've had my 5 minutes, but anyone, I can definitely provide. We push out these studies, but also we push out how great regions work together, and so we're excited, East Kern, as we pivot. They say, and just an introduction, have Jeremy Woods, who's going to talk about the Aerospace Valley Futures. It sounds like a commodity market or something. It's not on the stock exchange, but we're excited because he brings a passion and interest, and really on East Kern, and how do we move the region forward? And the big issue, right, is talent attraction, retention, and we've been meeting weekly. We're fortunate to have something that could happen in the pre-COVID area where people weren't as comfortable as Zoom. So, Jeremy, if you could just talk about your interest in East Kern and what you see. Obviously, we all know the potential, but talk about what you bring to the table and what why you're here today and hosting as well. Thank you.
Sure. So, thank you for inviting me, Richard. It's really fun for me personally to get involved with what we're doing right now. So just to give everybody a little background and a brief summary of what we're doing. I'm Jeremy Woods. I lead most of the entrepreneurship programs at Cal State. And actually, Cheryl just had a suggestion about muting mics. That's a good idea. I will mute everyone right now so that there's not feedback. Hang on one second. I'll continue with my... There we go. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, good. So I run most of the entrepreneurship programs at Cal State Bakersfield, including our student and faculty venture incubator. And what I've tried to do for the whole last year or so that we've had that is just talk with the leading industries in our area and ask, what problems are you having? How can we help? That's why we're here, is to solve problems. So the recurring theme that everybody from the aerospace sector told me is that recruiting and retention is a big problem. Like recruiting and retaining top quality aerospace engineers, military personnel, and their spouses and families is an ongoing challenge, and it's only going to get bigger as more baby boomers retire. So that was the impetus of starting this whole project. I talked a lot about it with Drew Christensen from Northrop Grumman over a year ago now, and had some students work on a brochure for him that grew into another student project that then eventually grew into a whole initiative to start out creating an online community that at least gathers low-hanging fruit information about what's already out there and available for people in the desert in one online community and platform. And then just starting to do focus groups and chat with various folks about what's good, what's bad, and what's the wish list of everything we could do to make Aerospace Valley the best place it could possibly be. And we just had our first of those focus groups yesterday, had 14 different people on it from Ridgecrest, Mojave, Edwards, and various places in between. Wonderful meeting. We're going to do focus groups like that for the next 3 weeks. Great brainstorms on initiatives we can start working on over the summer. So those focus groups are going to continue. We've been having meetings of leaders from Mojave, Edwards, China Lake, various other places for about the last month and a half already. We meet weekly on Fridays on Zoom, and it's just been tremendous cooperation and like brain dump of opportunities by everybody. So I got some very nice, specific, low-hanging fruit ideas of ventures, specifically entrepreneurial ventures and some economic development things that we could do that are pretty low-hanging fruit out of that first focus group yesterday. And we're going to keep going for the next 3 weeks with more focus groups. We should have a static draft website for the initiative up in another 2 weeks, maybe. And after that, it's really up to everyone on this call to decide what the priorities are for what we do next.
Well, thanks, Jeremy. And I know we talked today. I mentioned, it's called Aerospace Valley, but obviously we have aerospace defense, but we have, Rio Tinto, for example. And so all the industries beyond aerospace defense have the talent, traction, retention. So I know you're going to reach out to Rio Tinto, but again, right? I mean, this is about these innovation-related jobs, which these current economic alliances, working to retain and grow. So that's the thing I think we really need. And I mean, I know you lead these startup weekend, Techstars. You're really tied in to startup activity and growth. So it's exciting sometimes have someone from outside come in and can add value. And so we're excited. I mean, we got Sarah Cosa is on the call. We want to get education at all levels. Current Community College District, right? We want to have these folks engaged, and maybe you could take the Techstars, have an East Kern element.
I'd love that, and I'll just sort of end by saying that at the end of the day, Richard, I think I'm kind of an outsider to the rest of the day-to-day community in the desert, but what I'm trying to bring to the table for everybody is taking initiative outside the box and solving problems, especially with respect to low-hanging fruit that we can roll up our sleeves and work on right away. So it's been great getting feedback from everybody, and yeah, the whole philosophy of Techstars and our startup weekend, which Bank of America was really nice to support and enable. You, Karen, the whole philosophy behind all of our programs is that very thought, like take initiative, think outside the box, solve problems. And we've got a whole bunch of students that are excited to do that over the summer in whatever way is most appropriate for East.
Great. Well, thank you. And I know, right, it's about partnerships. I know we have a couple of folks from Bitwise on the phone. We're talking with our Kite and JP Lake about the Kern Venture Group. So how do we identify these Kern investment opportunities and obviously, growth industries? So, we have Mr. Kelly Bearden, who's been busy. I think he has a webinar every 10 minutes. So thank you for phoning in, Kelly. And how have you been? You're up in Modesto now?
I'm up here with my mom.
Okay.
87 years old today.
Wow.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. That's going to be great. I guess you can celebrate birthday parties. So, hey, it's great to see everybody. And I have to admit, having been to so many East Kern Economic Alliance meetings since 2012, this has been my favorite commute. So, I remember that Bakersfield to Boron is about 180 miles round trip. So this one was a little easier. But the SBDC has been quite busy in Kern County with a lot of activity and a lot of action going on with disaster funding relief. Most of you know what's going on with small businesses and how they're impacted, and the disaster funding that's out there for them through SBA for both the disaster loan and also the payroll protection program. We've been assisting, we've had hundreds of new clients sign up during this period. Last year, I think we worked with our one-on-one business consulting, where it could be anywhere between an hour and 100 hours. We worked with a little over 500 clients, and we had that many sign up in about 5 weeks. So it's been busy. Our consultants have really stepped up, and they're really doing a fantastic job. We've worked with over 600 of those clients that have actually applied for either the SBA EIDL or the PPP loans. And the success rate is coming in really good on those, so we're happy to see that. And I think we've assisted either hundreds or thousands more through those webinars, Richard, where we've done about 10 of them, not every 10 minutes, it's been 10 in about 8 weeks. But we've had about 3,000 people attend them, either live or on demand or some other share through Zoom or whatever. So the word is getting out. What we're doing now is we're really looking to reopen Kern County, and we're working with all the small businesses to try to get them open whenever they're able to do so legally, and to continue to kind of assist them with a lot of other needs that they're going to have, such as social media marketing and other things as they actually restart their businesses. Resources, because we realize that with the payroll protection program, it's great that there's $600 billion, close to $600 billion out there now. And there's going to be even some that's still available. And it's not too late for your small businesses in your communities to get some of that. But there's going to be a need for that after the 60 days that money is really good for. We're really seeing, especially with a lot of the restrictions on businesses, to be able to bounce back totally. We're going to continue to look for alternative funding sources through nonprofits and others as we move forward. So I believe that's close to my 5 minutes. So
well, thanks.
It's great to see everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Well, and I should mention, Kelly's webinars have been very successful. So we created our EDC fireside chat. We didn't want to use the same. I think he patented the term trademark webinar. So we had a fireside chat last week with the two economists from CSUB. We had over 500 viewers. And what we want to do is more of a macro level, looking at site selection trends, future work, healthcare. And Kelly does a great job describing individual programs, but how do we get real discussion on regional economic development and, frankly, outside folks tuning in. So we will, I know, moving forward, would love to do an East Kern. And we talked about the West Kern audience understanding what is occurring in East Kern. So we think that would be a great offering as we continue to move forward and create value. So thanks, Kelly, again. And District 1, do we have representative from District 1? No, well, I know District 2, I know Supervisor Zach Scribner is on the line. Thanks, Zach, for joining us today. Let's see. See if you can, Zach?
Hey guys, it's Zach. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
I got through your security protocols, Richard. It took a while.
Yeah, it's encrypted, whatever that means.
Yeah. Thanks. Am I up?
Yes, thanks, Zach.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate everybody having me on here. I want to launch into on what's going on with COVID-19 efforts to reopen businesses in the county. But before I do that, I just want to do a real quick report. Had a conference call this morning at 9 o'clock with staff from Congressman McCarthy's office, Kern Council of Governments, folks from Cal City, folks from Edwards Air Force Base, and Caltrans. The discussion was to find a pathway to fund the connection between Cal City Boulevard and 140th, which would eliminate the at-grade intersection at Cal City Boulevard and Highway 58 and build a frontage road essentially along the 58 up to the interchange, so folks don't have to make that left eastbound turn on 58. It's a safety issue. It will also help us to continue to make the 58 a freeway from Bakersfield to Kramer Junction, with the ultimate effort to be redesignating that as Interstate 40 when the Centennial Corridor is constructed, and with the Kramer Junction improvements that have done. And so what I think that does, it helps to continue to put our region on the map, figuratively speaking, and also actually put us on the map for a lot of these different tourists, transit, logistics, etc. So that I think is an important project for us, just to promote the region and allow for better goods movement, commerce, etc. Moving into the COVID-19 report, so the County Board of Supervisors have appointed myself and Supervisor Magritte, District 3, to an ad hoc committee with the goal of reopening our economy safely and responsibly. We've had a series of conference calls with different community stakeholders, as well as different industry clusters. We've identified multiple industry clusters, and so we're working our way through those industry clusters. So the ad hoc committee has two objectives. One is to provide an advisory group to the Public Health Department to reopen businesses that are in what we're calling the gray area. Those are businesses that are not identified as essential. So those were operating throughout the pandemic, and then those that were deemed non-essential. The governor has four stages in his reopening plan. The first stage were those essential businesses like home improvement centers, grocery stores, and then as you move into stage 2, those are other retail for curbside pickup and delivery only. And he has various phases within the stages, and so stage 2 has multiple phases. So this first phase is what he has described as lower risk businesses, and then as you move into through stage 2, you get into the higher risk businesses like restaurants for in restaurant dining. We have been working with this advisory committee to the Public Health Department to open businesses that are not specifically defined as those that can open, nor defined as those that cannot. And so in working with the various businesses and with the advisory group giving input to the Public Health Department, we've been able to open several business categories more quickly than we may have been able to do before if we were just following what the governor has put on his website as the businesses that can open and which ones can't. For instance, golf courses, tennis clubs, florists, recycling centers, those are some that we have been able to move through the process more quickly. The issue that we have come up against, which is a serious issue, are the various criteria that the governor has laid out for his reopening plan when it comes to the readiness plan and the containment plan. Those are two different plans that he has said that counties must complete and submit to the state in order to open more quickly through stage 2 than the state as a whole. So far, 10 counties have been given the green light to move through stage 2. Kern is not one of them. The problem that we have is that the requirement is you can have no more than one COVID-19 related death in any 14-day period, and you cannot have more than one infection per 10,000 people in a 14-day period. That is not going to be possible for us to achieve. And the reason being is that for a county of our size, we simply just have higher infection and unfortunately death rates than the smaller counties. The ones that have been allowed to move through stage 2 quickly have populations of 18,000 people or less. And so we have, multiple cities that exceed that. The argument that we are planning to make to the governor, generally speaking, came out of a conference call that Supervisor Maggard and I, along with our Public Health Director, Matt Constantine, and our CAO, Ryan Alsop, had last night with a group of acute care hospital CEOs and their lead physicians, their chief medical officers, or whatever the equivalent is. And so we had hospitals from Bakersfield to Ridgecrest that were participating in that call. The consensus of the group, and without objection from anyone, is that we should be looking at our hospitalization rate and having that be a ratio of hospitalization rate per positive COVID test. Because we were all told that why we're doing this shutdown is to prevent our hospitals from being overwhelmed. We don't want to have a situation where we have to make a choice between the 55-year-old guy with no comorbidities, no underlying health issues, and the 85-year-old guy that has, advanced age and also maybe has other health issues, having to choose which one gets the ventilator if you don't have enough. I mean, that's what this was all, supposed to be about, was for us not to overwhelm the healthcare system. And so they feel that should be the measurement that Kern County can easily achieve. Our hospitals have low hospitalization rates. We've been hovering around 20 to 30 throughout this pandemic for people that were hospitalized with COVID. 96% of the people who have tested positive have either recovered or are recovering at home. So we have a very low rate of folks that are in the hospital or in the ICU. So we'll be working we've established a working group among these physicians to develop that argument and to present that so Kern can move more quickly through this stage 2 and get more businesses open. So the businesses that are in stage 3 would be the ones that the governor has defined as more of a gathering type business: movie theaters, gyms, fitness centers. And I would take exception with that, because the gyms and fitness centers have a lot of different variables. If you're in aerobics class, that's one thing, but if you're using the machines, that's something else. And there can be protocols for cleaning, et cetera. But we're working under the governor's orders here, which is why we've been advocating for local control, because we think we know our communities and our businesses better than the state of California does. But having said that, that's the strategy, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. I appreciate everybody's time.
Any questions? Zach, you mentioned kind of, we were talking about industries impacted tourism. We actually went with, you hear the term now, staycation out of the LA Basin. I think they're with, in terms of airline travel, it's going to decrease, but Kern County is really well positioned, especially East Kern, for this new money coming in from the LA Basin. People may be doing the 1 or 2 day trip. So I think that's going to be something we need to take, frankly, advantage of. This, kind of aversion to airline flight travel versus doing the 1 or 2 day trip and turnaround.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. If anybody does, if there aren't any questions for me, I just jumped off a call where we're having a conference call with fitness centers and gyms to try to get them ready to open as soon as stage 3 is approved by the state, and to try to find any strategies that we might be able to differentiate between operations within gyms and fitness centers. So if nobody has any questions for me, I'm going to leave this call and then jump back on to that one. But thanks for what everybody's doing, and I hope you're all safe and well.
Well, Zach, I know when we had our fireside chat last week with the economist, someone had was remarking how Kern County has less than 1% of case fatality rates versus the state average is 6%. So that should play, frankly, in terms of reopening. I mean, those numbers are dramatically the contrast.
It is, Richard, and I think that one of the things that one of the docs brought up on our conference call last night is, let's actually look at those folks that have passed away from COVID and look at what are their comorbidities, what other health factors did they have. I think there's a big difference between, the death rate if you're looking at people who were in an at-risk category versus those that are healthy as well. I mean, there's a lot of things that to this that I believe have been arbitrary as far as how you measure the data points, not just on infection rates and death rates, but also the different counties. We're making an argument that this regional variance that the governor has described when he's talking about allowing certain counties to open faster than others. Kern County needs to be viewed, I believe, as regions within a region, because we have areas like Eastern Kern that have very, very low infection rates, no death rates, and those areas I think you can reasonably argue should be able to open their businesses more quickly than even Metro Bakersfield, where you have some, or Arvin or Lamont, where you might have some relatively larger infection rates than some of these other rural areas. And so that's another argument that we're making to the governor as well, because 8,100 square miles, communities that vary widely as far as size and data points for the infection rates, et cetera. We need to be advocating for all regions within Kern to be able to reopen. And if that means reopening on a different schedule, then so be it, because it's going to help everyone in the county as a whole, regardless of who gets to open first.
Great. Thanks, Zach. We really appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you guys. If there are any other questions, I'm going to get back on this call with these other folks. But I appreciate you giving me an opportunity. I'm sorry not to stay on and hear the reports, but Laura Lynn I know is on it, so she'll brief me. But we've got these businesses that are desperate to be able to open up and serve their customers and employ their workforce, and so we're working diligently every day to try to help that process move as quickly as possible, as long as it's safe and responsible.
Time is of the essence. We really appreciate it.
Did somebody have a question?
A quick question, Supervisor Scrivener, Dave Janis. Did you say we have a confirmed date with the governor to get his decision one way or the other?
No, I didn't. And he's been vague with that, frankly, Dave. He what was it, last Friday, he said we could move into stage 2. And so but there is no confirmation on any date as far as when we get through stage 2, et cetera. He's put out a bunch of guidelines for how different kinds of industry sectors can reopen, but they are giving us no dates, and quite frankly, the goalpost keeps moving, and this is you can see this nationwide and within the state, and you have other communities like Los Angeles just said that they may have to keep for the 3 months more, which is not something the governor has indicated, but you do have a few communities that are that have instituted more strict guidelines than even what the state is doing. I think that there are multiple factors at play here. One is the scientific data that we're seeing as far as infection rates and death rates, et cetera, throughout the state. That's something they're watching as far as to dictate the timeline. But I also think that there are arguments that we can make on the local level and through our state representatives and, good old-fashioned political pressure that is also moving the needle on how fast things open up. I mean, you saw a very quick turnaround once you had the governor close the beaches in Southern California, and then you had protests in Southern California and then at the Capitol. And then, lo and behold, on Monday morning, the governor said, hey, guess what? We're, moving into stage 2 and we're reopening certain parts of the economy. And so all those factors, I think, are at play. I think we need to make good, sound, scientific arguments on why Kern should be able to have an accelerated pathway to reopening and hope and enlist the help from multiple voices on the political and business spectrum to make that case, which is what we're doing. And that, I think, will help to move the timeline for us. As long as we have the ability to respond to a surge in infections, and that's not just our hospitals, but that's also our alternative care site with 200 hospital beds that we have ready to go at the Kern County Fairgrounds in case our hospitals do reach that 140% capacity, demonstrating that we are able to test and track. We're going to have up to 10 or maybe more even free test sites open in the county very soon. We're up to 5 or 6 now, and we're opening more. One's in Mojave, by the way, another in Ridgecrest, and we're working to get one in Tehachapi, and then we have multiple other sites throughout the county. So all those things that we can demonstrate need to be part of our argument.
Appreciate it. We're behind you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, everybody, take care. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks, Zach. So we have scrolling down. Our scroller is Jeremy. Are you? I think Boron is next. So I know I talked to Nathan at Rio Tinto. Nathan, are you on the call? Nathan?
How about now? You can hear me now?
Yes, how are you? Thanks for calling, Nathan. Well,
My pleasure.
We talked about industries, COVID, risk. How's Rio Tinto doing and lithium?
So we're doing pretty good. We're one of the fortunate businesses, just based off of the wide variety uses of our product that was considered essential. So we have been running these last couple of months under the quarantine, and that we did change things up on how we work with our workforce. All of the positions that are kind of office-based and work critical for operations are working from home. And we've divided up our crews in what we call into 2 teams and that. And so they're all working 12-hour shifts. When they come on site, as well as contractors, they go through a process of screening with a temperature gun. If they have elevated temperatures, they're refused access to the site. As well as our employees are working with social distancing in areas where they can't keep the social distance. They are wearing the additional PPE with face masks, and that's to conduct the work. So things have been running pretty good. Our products, as far as March sales, we're about on mark or a little bit above mark. We're seeing our Asia market actually ordering extra supplies just to kind of build up a surplus in case of supply streams start to face challenges and concerns. And that we've had communications with our customers, and that, so things are looking good as that and logistic wise. But we do kind of are projecting a downward trend in the demand for our product, just as some things are slowing down, especially like with the domestic market and the home construction being impacted by the pandemic. So those are kind of things we're thinking. We are thinking that we're going to still be pretty healthy at the end of the year, but be below our projections. And that, in addition to that, our company has earmarked funds globally to assist the communities that we work in. And so in Boron, we have been donating about $10,000 with a program that will contribute to matching contributions from our employees. Right now, we've identified 3 organizations that are they're gearing towards the vulnerable communities around us. And so we're looking at areas like food banks and meal programs and distant learning needs for the communities around us, and where we can also assist the schools as we try to ramp up next fall, and where we can help out with that. So those are some of the things that we are doing as far as Rio Tinto and the Boron operations.
Well, I know Nathan. I know Mary Beth's on leave, so you have a new. Is it Monica? Is your new community relations specialist?
Correct. She is filling in as Mary Beth is recovering, and Mary Beth is doing really well. So I think she's kind of itching to get back in the game herself. So she doesn't like to be sitting on the bench at this time of the reality or in the condition the world's in right now.
Nathan, so your main competitor is Turkey. So I mean, I know you have mines in Serbia. How is the I haven't been analyzing COVID cases in Serbia or Turkey, but has there been any impact on your other mines as well as your competitors in terms of the countries?
So yeah, Rio Tinto as a whole, we're in different markets, not just in borates. Some areas we're doing really good. I mean, the bulk of Rio Tinto is the iron ore operations there in Australia, and they're doing really well, supplying the Asian market, which is kind of our largest customers for a variety of our products, and they are opening back up their economies, and so we are benefiting in that aspect. However, there are some of our operations, depending on each government, has their different response, and that we are following their guidelines in that. And so some of our mines have had to reduce operation to some actually full-out shutdown and that. And so, and as well as some of our customers are also facing those same things. So we are seeing drop in demand in some of our product line. And that, but as you're kind of mentioning our competitor, we're thinking just like we're being approached by other customers reaching out to us, and we're assuming that our customers is also reaching out to our competitor, just to make sure that they can secure their resources as this pandemic plays out, and anticipating that if there are difficulties getting supplies, that they have alternate resources in order to keep their operations going. So we think that we're seeing that in a lot of our customers right now.
Great, thanks, Nathan. Any questions for Nathan? Well, moving on to California City. I know City Manager Anna just said that she unfortunately cannot make the meeting. So I think, Alexi, are you going to be the ambassador for California City? I think you're on mute. Let's see. Alexia, you're on mute. How do we Okay. Don't worry, we won't dock you for 20 seconds.
I was trying to unmute it on my laptop, forgot that I'm actually on my phone.
I can't read lips, sorry.
Okay, I'm definitely on the spot. Didn't know that I was going to be talking about Cal City, but I will talk actually a little more regionally and really from the standpoint of the current situation that we're in, and what I was doing in conjunction with chambers of commerce in the communities that I'm working in. Tehachapi, by the way, Corey, I was watching you guys. You guys are doing great, and didn't need my help. But then Cal City, Boron, and I was forwarding everything to Rosamond. The first few weeks, let's face it, this wasn't economic development. This was economic rescue and recovery, definitely in rescue mode. So working with the chamber, found all the resources we possibly could and made sure that it was on the website, pushed out in social media, and then coordinated with the board that they call all the businesses. And we started with the ones that were going to have the first impact, which were restaurants. The hairdressers where you get your nails done. And so those were the first ones they called and made sure they had the right resources. All of those resources were shared then with the chamber in Boron. They were shared with the chamber in Rosamond, and so they could then in turn disseminate the information. We even had talking points so that when they called restaurants, suggestions that they could go through. And I believe they did the same as what we did. Tehachapi did something similar. And that was listing out, which restaurants were open, which ones were doing curbside pickup, delivery, so on and so forth. And so that was really, at the very beginning, just sort of like triage, make sure that we were taking care of our businesses. Otherwise, from an economic standpoint, all I know is what I'm working on. I'm still working with businesses that, in one case, they're looking at buying land. There's another one that has. There's another one that's working on government grants. And if they get that, they're interested in moving into our region. It may not be specifically California City. So, there's good news and not so good news. I will say one of my concerns is that as things progress, right now, our businesses know what grants are out there. They know that, if they have to, they don't have to pay bills right now. But when that dries up, when they have to start paying the bills, when they can no longer, put it off, I think that's when they're really going to run into trouble. And that's when I'm wondering what locally do we have resources to then help those businesses that made it through this far. And I guess I'll leave it at that.
Well, and I'd like to have Dave Smith, but if I can go jump ahead, Dave, if you have a little time on it. Justin Powers has I think is on webinar in a few minutes, so if we can circle back to you, Dave, on Edwards. Justin, I know he's live from the Kern River Valley in his co-work facility, which originally I said great people can work there, but I guess you're not. Are you an essential service?
No. Looking at the governor's advice, we probably classify as an office space, which is later in phase 2. So the sooner we can get through to the next part of phase 2, the sooner we can offer our services. And we're a little bit different than most office spaces in that it's not the same people every day. We have people day passes. Our new motto is work where you play. So we're before all this started, our marketing play was to try to encourage people from outside the valley to come in and have a place they can work while they're vacationing. I do have to start a webinar in about 5 minutes, so I am going to rush through my update. There's no COVID-19 cases currently identified in the Kern River Valley, which is awesome. And I have a lot of wood around here I'm knocking on right now. And we will be getting one of those testing sites soon. And for us, that's a really big deal because the healthcare system up here is very minimal. We would have a very difficult time handling any kind of an outbreak. And a lot of people up here are scared. We're a tourism-based economy, as was mentioned earlier, that is getting hammered right now. Some of the visitors we have been getting, and keep in mind these, starting a few weeks ago, these are people that were traveling in the middle of a quarantine. Many of them aren't respecting the health and safety of our community in the same way that our residents are. And so that's been a big concern, which is why I think this testing and tracing that we're going to be getting is a really big deal, and that's going to help us move forward. As you alluded to earlier, Richard, I expect as we move forward and as we get out of this crisis, we're going to get a lot of people that are going to want to travel and vacation, but they're not going to want to hop on a plane. And so kind of the consensus is that is going to drive a lot of traffic up here, and that's going to be good for our economy. But even more than that, something that's near and dear to my heart is we're going to get a lot of these people that have realized that they don't have to work in the city, and they don't have to work where their office is located. And so getting a lot of those remote workers up here, I think, is something that we want to capitalize on so that we can reap the economic benefits of those people receiving their paychecks from LA, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, but spending it here. The Kernville and Kern River Valley Chambers of Commerce, we're working together very well. We're communicating often. We are working together on getting information out to our businesses and out to the community. Kernville Cowork is hosting a bi-weekly business roundtable so that our businesses can all get in one Zoom call and kind of come up with, talk about what our issues are and how we're solving them and how we're moving forward. And that's we hosted our first one this week, and it went very well. We're hosting a lot of virtual events, including one in 3 minutes, where we're going to help our businesses kind of come up with a new vision for how they're moving forward. Because as we're moving into this new normal, everything changes. You can't be the same business that you were before for most of us. And we have to find ways of being creative, and we have to find ways of kind of figuring out where our customers are at and how to best serve them. So we're hosting a lot of resources for our community.
It's Jeremy Woods. I just wanted to jump in quick. Alexia, I'm the host, and Alexia very properly raised her hand, and I wanted to make sure she had a chance to ask you her question before you had to go.
I've got exactly 1 minute. Go for it. Oh, I think she's giving me.
It's not for Jeremy. I just had actually really good news for Cal City. So Jeremy, when you're done.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Anyways, it's tough for everybody right now, just like it is everywhere else. It's I do want to, as much as we can, try to open up Kern County and regions, and I do think we are different than say Bakersfield, but we're also linked to Bakersfield, and the fact that the Bakersfield cases are still rising is something that does concern us. But I do appreciate this concerted effort to view this massive county of Kern as being, we're separate. We have totally different economies. So, anyways, that's my update. I don't have any time for questions. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, so Alexia, and then we'll have Dave Smith chatting about Edwards.
So this is super quick. It's good news. And a clinic, we have clinics. We have an additional clinic that opened up in California City, and it's a federally qualified healthcare center, an FQHC, and it's called Bart's Altadena. They expanded out of the Lancaster-Palmdale area, and they offer everything from family practice, internal medicine, pediatrics, pain management, podiatry, OBGYN, HIV treatment, behavioral health. That was a big one. And I know that they are also able to do drug abuse intervention and prevention, and they will take anyone. And that's because they are a federally qualified healthcare center. They are also serving Mojave and Boron, and they will be bringing their mobile unit.
Well, I guess the timer went off. Well, let's, Alexia.
There's no timer, Richard. I think
no, I know.
Freeze in there's a freeze somehow in Alexia's.
Dave Smith on the line.
I am.
How are things at Edwards?
So this will also be a bit brief because, frankly, we are right now establishing what normal looks like in this era of abnormal. We are back to flying aircraft and fixing aircraft and prosecuting test and evaluation missions and doing data analysis and engineering on a day-to-day basis. How we're doing it are ways that we've never seen before. So more and more we're exploring that telework capability, more and more addressing the issues of how can I do things that are for official use only, or maybe even approaching the secret categories from home. How can I ensure that we have a degree of government protection in our various protocols, yet are executing mission? So something exciting in all of this, and Jeremy and I have had this discussion of late, is this is opening our eyes to how tomorrow might look in our new normal. One of the things we've addressed here in the Aerospace Valley as an issue is, hey, it's kind of hard to get people from the South Bay to come up to the Mojave Desert, look around and go, this is really beautiful. I want to move here tomorrow. And it does have its own unique, wonderful beauty, and it can compete in very many unique ways. But when it comes to our personnel, especially entry-level personnel, maybe it doesn't have all the creature comforts that they want. Well, maybe we don't have to change that. Maybe as we're discovering this era of increased teleworking and unique capabilities, we can do that. I recently, for instance, in most of our positions, we drug test. And we do have many people that still live out of town, even though they come to the base. And a requirement we had was, hey, if you're randomly selected for a drug test, you have to come in and test. You don't have a lot of time to go do something else. Well, a particular individual that was teleworking from Fresno had a problem with making just that timing right. And by the way, their kids are home from school. So how do we cover for that? Well, it's not a done deal yet, but opening that aperture and looking out, hey, we got a guard wing in Fresno. The guard wing in Fresno does drug testing. Why am I not sending Bob to the 144th Fighter Wing to pee in the bottle and get evaluated to make certain they're clean and sober? So again, it's just an example of the fact that we have to get off our, we are very, very compartmentalized in the military, and being as innovative as Edwards is, we're a branch of the government that maybe doesn't embrace change very well. So we have got to do that better, faster, and cheaper. And that's our focus right now on how we approach this new normal. We also want to be strong community partners across the board and look at ways that we can lower the fence line and create unique business opportunities with the communities we support. Why is it we don't have unique intergovernment support agreements like they have in Monterey? It's a small example, but I'll share that if you go to the city of Monterey and look around for a parking lot that has a bunch of trucks parked in it that say City of Monterey, you won't find it. And guess what? Fort Ord doesn't have any routine service trucks. They use the City of Monterey's. And oh, by the way, that parking lot in Monterey that the trucks were in, that's really expensive real estate. So I can develop that property. I can put an entrepreneur on top of that, and I can create millions of dollars of revenues at what had been a parking lot by taking trucks that I've bought anyway and using them as trucks, which they do anyway, and support both the government and the city. So it's just one example of ways we can move as we look at more and more community partnership opportunities. I'll drop it there. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Mojave, Bill, hope you're doing well.
Oh, not too bad. Stuck at home, but I'm kind of used to that. Is Amanda online?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to just give a brief report. The airport, I'm on the airport district board. We're required by law, by the FAA, to operate. We are operating within all the guidelines. We're doing maintenance work around the airport. I hear airplanes flying all day long. We had a chamber board meeting yesterday using Zoom, which worked out very well. We plan to have our monthly meetings that way. And the only thing I'm going to miss are the sandwiches, which are always great. I couldn't get them to deliver sandwiches, but I tried. And I'm going to suggest to Kathy Hansen that maybe we do Plain Crazy Saturday with our speakers. We have some really super speakers, and I think it's a good vehicle for that, save people from having to drive all over. It's opening up opportunities, and I had some experience in Washington with setting up these kinds of situations so that government employees didn't have to travel all over the country. We're also keeping our chamber members informed of the grants and everything that folks were talking about earlier. we have a growing list of people that we can send a message to online, and we do that every day or so, and we're going to continue to do that. We're getting good responses from that, and it's things like this. They're terrible. I'm in the demographic, 84 years old, that I wouldn't want to be in, especially now. But you got to look at these situations as opportunities. And if you look at history, some of the biggest changes in history for the positive have come out of bad things. Like, look at all the technology that came out of World War II. So, Amanda, you got something to say?
You pretty much covered quite a bit of what's happened recently. It was really great to have the chamber meeting yesterday, the board meeting, and we kind of decided to attempt to keep the status quo, still hold our meetings, our monthly meetings, albeit virtually and no sandwiches, unfortunately, but just to try to keep the community connected. I know pretty much the world is getting a little antsy about staying at home, but I think doing meetings like this are becoming easier and easier, and it helps to make sure everybody can be heard and still be connected. So we're going to organize the chamber one, and we'll probably be sending out an email soon enough with details about that. In terms of my project and things that I've still been working on for Mojave, a few of the things that I've been pursuing the last few months have been put aside. They have to for the time being, given the circumstances, but new initiatives have kind of randomly appeared. Jeremy's Aerospace Valley Futures Initiative has been fantastic. Alexia, Suzette, and I have been participating in that since the first Zoom meeting, and helping to provide whatever information and coordination that we can to keep that momentum. We've got a really big group participating, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to help market and get some of the those retention issues moving in a positive direction, even despite what's going on in the world today. There's another group that we're also working on different sort of initiatives for Aerospace Valley that is more regionally collaborative, which quite a few people have wanted to expand efforts in terms of aerospace in our area. So we've been working with them, and those conversations will continue. And it's been really productive and great to be able to do things in this manner. Aside from that, that's about it for Mojave as far as I know.
Good, thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Bill and Amanda. Ridgecrest next.
Richard, can I actually jump in 1 second? It's Jeremy again.
Oh, yes.
Just while we're passing by the location of Mojave before going on to the next report, there were specifically some very good low-hanging fruit suggestions and discussions on the call we had yesterday about Mojave. I'll follow up with you guys about it later, but it was really good focus group yesterday. Sorry to interrupt.
No. I know we have Melissa and a couple of Dave and others. So take it away.
Hello, everybody.
And Rebecca.
It's Melissa Anchetta, the Economic Development Analyst at the City of Ridgecrest. I hope everybody's doing well. Our update is fairly short, although lots of substance in it. Our regional hospital here in Ridgecrest is working really well with the city. We're supporting each other, and there's lots of transparency, especially not only between our organizations, but to the public as well. They're actually publishing their numbers daily for the number of tests that they're submitting, and number-wise, they've got 302 tests that they have in total with only 6 positive cases, and there's currently no inpatients. So, good news on that end. And then on the other end of my update, Dave, you can kind of help me here, but I have the earthquake recovery update, I guess. So we have a regular meeting with, the China Lake Alliance, the Economic Development Corporation, and other organizations within the community, and this is to keep each other appraised with a bunch of new information regarding the China Lake recovery efforts from the earthquake. The timelines, in relation to everything that's happening right now, they're looking fairly steady. The only issue that we've seen is not really an issue. It's just that the peak of the 1,500 to 3,000 people, depending, are going to be here at the end of 2022 when it was originally expected at 2021. So there might be a few concerns about COVID and people traveling to the area, but the base is also working to get testing, and the city itself is working to get testing here. I know the hospital is getting antibody testing at the end of the month, so we've got things in place for that. One of the requests for proposals for one of the bigger projects on base is out now. So, but they've been issuing the RFPs for some of the smaller contractors. So, the big focus in a lot of these is, again, housing and how to address that. So we brought in different organizations like the Realtor Association here and the Hotel Association that we have. So for the most part, that's my update. Unless you wanted to ask Dave, Suzette, I think I saw Rebecca on here.
Yeah, you have 2 minutes.
And let me add a little bit more fidelity to the earthquake recovery piece. There have been folks working on the base as we speak, and in fact, our hotel lodging average is about double nationwide average at 15%, which means they're still 25% to 50% below making even. But that's a good news story. The first major contract for the main magazines has actually been awarded, and we're expecting to see some contractors come in town in the August timeframe to execute that, and that is also coincident with the arrival of white-collar workers who will be staffing the Navy-run earthquake recovery office that will be located on the base. And the travel restrictions, while the Navy and DoD extended the travel restrictions through June 30th, they also are adding exemptions each week. So the actual numbers of folks that are able to travel for mission testing, as David said, and others are increasing and continuing to increase. That office is going to be staffed that way, plus 100 to 150 new contractors. The next, Melissa referred to the first big tranche of the South Airfield contracts. That RFP is out. The response is due in July. It's expected to be awarded in September. And that's parallel to 3 MILCONs that are also going on the common support facilities on the base in the same time frame. So we're looking at the start of the arrival of the larger workforce in November, December, and January out of those, with the peaks being, as Melissa said, the largest near the mid to end of 22, but at the start of or the end of 21 is when that will get towards that ramp. Lots of good things going there. Out of the 6 positive tests at the Ridgecrest Hospital, 3 were actually Ridgecrest residents, 1 in Inyakern. So in our 35,000 person Indian Wells Valley up here, 2 valleys north of most of you all, we've had 4 positives, 0 hospitalizations, 0 deaths. Looking forward to coming out of the restrictions, because one of our big concerns is, while it's housing the workforce, it's being able to feed the workforce. And we have permanently shuttered several restaurants. So we're concerned with how we're going to handle 3,000 additional folks. We need to get back up and running with safety restrictions. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. John, you're here from Rosamond. How have you been?
Yes. Am I getting through?
John Joyce?
Yes.
Oh, I think he's on mute.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
How's the publishing business?
The publishing business online and in print is good. The agencies in Roseman have transitioned online. The directors, the staff have familiarized themselves with all the buttons on the Zoom screen. And happy to say that the Roseman News has continued week to week as an essential industry, and we will be publishing our graduation color issue in 2 weeks. And the businesses have really responded and supported it, and we're using the graduate pictures that they took some months ago. So we will have that anniversary issue for graduation coming out on time. Outside of that, Roseman is pretty calm and collected.
I think it's cool, calm, and collective, but thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Well, next we have Tehachapi. I know we have Greg, Corey, and Council Member Scribner. Well, congratulations, Christina.
Yeah, so I'll give the report for Tehachapi. You know, a lot of stuff has continued despite everything that's happening in terms of development. Our Marriott is under construction actively, so they've continued, really haven't missed a beat other than they changed out a foreman, so that was the only delay they had. That wasn't COVID related. Bowie Construction, there's been a couple of businesses that have actually decided to refocus their efforts from other cities around Tehachapi and to Tehachapi. That'd be Bowie Construction. They're a construction group out of Lancaster. They just received planning commission approval for a 26,000 square foot headquarters in Tehachapi. DC's RV Center, which was pretty big in Bakersfield. They've had a second location in Tehachapi the last couple of years. They've closed their Bakersfield location, and they're just focusing exclusively on Tehachapi, and then a property that they purchased in Henderson, Nevada as well. So those two have kind of decided to focus their efforts on Tehachapi. Some of the projects we had in the queue before all this happened, Panda Express is still moving forward. We were more so waiting on some legal stuff with Walmart and that in terms of real estate, and that's all been handled. So they are permit ready, and the message we're getting is none of these folks have canceled. They've just sort of paused, obviously, and so that we're looking forward to picking that one up here very shortly. Same with the group called Tacos El Superior, which came out of the Antelope Valley too. They're actually permit ready, so they said June they'll be pulling their permits. I brought up before to the Aerospace Valley Group, Village Collective, the co-working space downtown, and as Dave Smith suggested, more folks are figuring out how to telework. Village Co will provide that co-working / $600 a month private office suite if you'd like to do that, but allow you to kind of work in a collaborative type environment that won't be home and not as expensive as a regular office as well. So they are seeking tenants right now as they continue to build that. So if anybody's interested, please let me know, because it will be an opportunity, especially for aerospace companies that don't want to send people into, whether it's crowded hangars, that sort of stuff, to work every day, to give an opportunity to work somewhere else. So that is continuing as well, as is early in the couple months ago in the Planning Commission, the new Starbucks retail center in Capitol Hills was approved, and they're still in plan check right now. So these projects are all moving forward. Despite COVID-19, it's a good opportunity for people under construction to keep building and get ready for reopening. The recovery process, as a city goes, really the asteroid hasn't hit yet. If you were a business, the asteroid hit when the governor, he made his order and you had to close as non-essential, and then you sort of start to recover from there. As cities go, the asteroid, we're still waiting to see what this means in terms of our revenues and that sort of things for budgeting. We made budget adjustments to meet those. We were in a very healthy reserve standpoint before all this, and because of that, we're going to be able to weather this pretty strongly. And but we're still waiting to see what this means in terms of revenues and sales tax and that sort of thing. We are expecting, of course, occupancy tax in hotels to be less this coming year. So we're budgeting according to that. I did want to bring up, and Richard and I have been trying to connect on this issue, and Alexia asked the question earlier about what are the resources that are available. Well, the County of Kern has been allocated $35 million as part of their CARES Act funding that they have earmarked for economic development. We were on a call, and that was pretty well publicized. We were then on a call with a few folks from the county, Jim Zervis being one of them, and the question was asked, what is this money going to be used for? And the programs that they're looking to create with this are something similar to the PPP from the federal level, but in terms of a grant, not a loan. And another 10 million or so is going to be allocated towards retrofitting your business. So if you're a restaurant, you have to pay for whether it's glass partitions or PPE equipment, you can use this grant money for that. I know they're still working through the details. However, the concern that we had was when asked, well, how's this going to be sort of publicized and allocated? The answer was, oh, well, we'll work with the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce and they'll work with all your chambers of commerce. All of us know that probably won't be the case. So the suggestion for KEDC, and it's essentially the East Current Economic Alliance, will be we would like KEDC to take more of an active role in that sort of program once it's created, helping get the guidelines, helping interact with East Kern to make sure the East Kern businesses, and this is good for businesses in cities in Kern County as well as unincorporated county as well. So it's open to any business in Kern County. So Richard, we'd like to get your help for sure in helping lead that effort when the county does come up with the guidelines for this $35 million in economic development relief to small business to help us have a voice and obviously engage the East Kern communities with that. That's all I got.
Thanks. And yeah, I'd love to hopefully maybe I can reach out to you tomorrow morning to get additional information.
Yeah, they're still working on it. Yeah, give me a call. They're still working on the details. But the money was put out there, and just I don't want this to go, just dump this off and say the Greater Bakersfield Chamber's got it, because none of our chambers will receive a phone call from the Greater Bakersfield Chamber. So we need to take more of an active.
I appreciate. Actually, I got an email about your farmers market. I love the farmers market, but what is the ramifications about with COVID? Are you allowed to have that?
Yeah, so the farmers market, I did actually have it down. I didn't mention it, but it is, matter of fact, it's going on right now. The changes, it is it's a household essentials farmers market. So any sort of goods or materials have to be something that was created on a farm. It's got to be associated with a local farm in the county. And they just have cut out the sort of event pieces of the farmers market, which were live bands and people on the street, creating street food vendors that are selling barbecue and that kind of stuff. So it's just basically a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, some prepackaged meats and things from local farmers, and it's been great. I mean, last week was phenomenal. People took it as an opportunity to get outside and see their friends and neighbors, because like Ridgecrest and even the rest of East Kern, they haven't been impacted as heavily by the virus, and so it was a great opportunity for people to get out and see their friends and just enjoy the weather and pick up some stuff that frankly might not be available at a grocery store right now. So it's been the County Department of Public Health totally blessed it, as long as they just took away the entertainment aspect of it from the farmers market. So it's been a success so far.
Richard, can I tag on to that?
Yeah, Christine, no, I wanted you to weigh in on what's happening in your neck of the woods. Obviously, you're a council member, but also with Adventist Health.
Corey did a great job, as he always does, and Greg, and so I will leave that to them. But I just want to reinforce that I know we've been hearing a lot of discussions about a lot of folks are hyper-focused on the news coverage in New York, where the epicenter was, and I think the general consensus is that maybe that's what's happening at all of our hospitals, and I think we're getting the message out there that that's not. We are like many other hospitals that are experiencing really low volumes right now, and our only concern really is that we just want to reinforce that we don't want people to delay care. We actually have resumed our elective surgery, and I personally don't like that characterization. We're not talking about cosmetic surgery. We're talking about surgery that's necessary for folks to be healthy, but it's non-emergent. So we did a couple of shoulders on Monday and are continuing to do emergent surgeries, but we're beginning to ramp back up on our long waiting list of scheduled surgeries. So we're safe.
folks that come in are kept safe. And I'm here at the hospital now and have split my time working here and from home, but our work is continuing to be done. I want to thank Edwards Air Force Base for their amazing flyover this morning for our staff. That was really really special. So anyway, we just the word is that we're doing well here at Adventist Health Tehachapi Valley. We're ready to care for people safely, and we don't want people to delay their care because of fear that it's not a good idea to be seen.
Great, thanks, Christina.
Thank you.
Well, I know I talked to Teresa. I had a meeting at 2, but Teresa here, she was going to try to call in at the end. Okay. Well, member comments. Anything for the good of the order? We're trying to wrap up by 3:30. Obviously, we can go beyond that, but great meeting today. Any comments? Suggestions?
Richard, I'll just comment generally by saying thank you for inviting me, and I'm really excited to roll up my sleeves and together with our students help do whatever we can do to move things forward over the course of the coming months.
Thank you, Jeremy. And hopefully the next meeting in July, we will see each other in person.
Richard?
Yes.
One thing I failed to mention, since we don't have an Inyakern rep, the Inyakern Airport did receive a grant through Congressman McCarthy's office, heavy-duty work for $11 million to